Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back for another episode of a Runnin podcast, coming to you from Kea, Hawaii, on top of a volcano in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. I am Clint, and thank you for returning for episode number 13. I apologize. I have not done one of these in quite a while. The world is upside down. I actually have recorded, I think, 2, 3 kind of half episodes before this. I have not used them because they put me in such a bad mood, and they were such a downer because of everything that's going on right now that I didn't really want to release them. And honestly, I got frustrated and depressed and just turned off the GarageBand, went to bed. So yeah, it is a bummer, more than a bummer. Everything that's going on right now is crazy, but I don't really feel like I'm the person to really wax political on the things that are going on. I think coming at it from just a more personal angle is probably the best way that I'm going to be able to approach this, because, I'll just be honest with you. I don't want to make anybody upset or feel alienated or, open myself to criticism or undue criticism or whatever. But at the same time, like I tend to be pretty transparent and say how I feel. And so today it seems like no matter what a person says, no matter what their intention is, it's always twisted, one way or another to kind of fit the agenda of people that don't like that person, or people that want to get some kind of advantage over that person. So I feel like I'm probably not a person that has many people that are trying to get anything that I have, or get some kind of advantage over me. But at the same time, like, I am a person. I live in the world. I don't want anybody coming to my house because of something that might be misinterpreted on this podcast, and having a problem with me and stuff happening. So again, I choose my words pretty carefully, even though I try to be transparent and say how I feel. But I mean, how do I feel? So yeah, I'm not gonna. I think I'm gonna steer clear of touching on the actual events, and I'm just gonna speak from my personal experiences, and what I feel is kind of the best course to take in a person's life. And so I'll preface that with this whole conversation with myself is gonna basically pertain to how no person should just take what someone else says, believe it, and then act on it like as their ethos, right? So even though I'm going to tell you what I think, I don't think that you should take what I say and then necessarily make that the end all be all, like how you're going to proceed forward. And I don't think many people will. I think people are pretty smart and can make educated decisions for themselves. And so take this as you're interested in what I have to say, right? But you don't necessarily, there's no expectation from me that you need to do everything that I do, or think how I think, or whatever. So onward with this. How do I feel? Like at the core, I think that people should be able to go their entire lives without being messed with from outside forces. Sorry, I just hit the microphone stand. Sorry about that. What in the world does that mean? Well, I think that people should just be allowed to live their life and not be poked and prodded, not have people tell them, you need to live this way or that way. And I mean, to be quite honest, I think that the society that we've come to, and the things that we aspire to as a society, are a little bit backwards. So we live our whole lives trying to go down, or I say we, I mean a lot of people. Everybody doesn't do the same, but a lot of people have chosen, for one reason or another, to be on this path kind of that everybody is taken, or a lot of people are taking, where we have this kind of linear path, and you must achieve like certain things to have quote unquote success in your life. And so you have to go to school, you have to get out of school, and then go to college, and then if you get a associate's degree, well, okay, but if you get a bachelor's degree, okay, well, that's a little better. You get a master's degree, okay, now you're moving. You get a doctorate, now you're shaking. You get out of college, whatever degree you pursue, right? And there's even degrees is a bad word, but there's even differences or levels within that. So like, oh, where'd you go to school? I went here. Oh, okay. Or I went to Harvard. Oh, that's better. I went to community college. Oh, okay, I see. Like we've set that up, and then also like, oh, what do you want to do? Oh, engineer. Awesome. Oh, I'm going to art school. People have these preconceived notions. So like, even if you think you're doing the right thing, in somebody else's eyes, you may be doing the wrong thing. So put that in your pocket, okay? And we'll touch on that in a minute. I understand too, like, just to break this thought for a minute, I understand too that I'm not the best articulator, and this may be coming off really uneducated and stupid sounding. I'm just telling it the best way that I can, and I'm going off the cuff here. This is not scripted. I'm actually forming these thoughts as I speak. So forgive me if I can't think of the most eloquent word or whatever. But so I think you get my drift so far. It's like you go to school, and then you got to get out, and you got to get a job, okay? But then there's levels to that too, okay? So where do you work? I work for GE. Awesome. I work for Google. Awesome. Oh, I work at Amazon warehouse. Or I work at the supermarket. The people judge even that, right? So you're technically doing the right thing, but it's just not good enough for some people. Put that in your pocket. We'll touch on that later. And so you spend your life on this path, right? And you're not supposed to deviate from that, or else you risk the being shunned by society and the people that you love and care about, I guess. I don't know. So you do all that, and you do all that for your entire lifetime, and then at the end of your life you look back, and what have you done? You've gone to school, you've gone to work, you've spent your life doing things that other people think that you should do, and maybe you were happy and maybe you had some good experiences in there. I'm not saying that following that path is going to negate your life or is going to detract. Not at all. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that just most people tend to follow a path that's kind of the way and never think about deviating from that, or trying something else. And every now and then you'll get people that do think that way. I don't want to follow this path. I don't like it. I want to go do something else. And so sometimes that works out for them. Sometimes it doesn't. So there's really not any one way or one path that's better, I guess, or worse. It's just, the deal is that no human being has been alive for more than 114 years. I don't know what the oldest human being, the oldest age is, but I mean, let's face it, after a certain age, sorry if this is being discriminatory, but there is kind of an age, right? If you're in your 90s, probably you're slowing down. Okay, we'll put it that way. If you're in your 80s, you're probably slowing down a little bit. 70s, you may be slowing down. So there's kind of like, even if the oldest person was 120, right? There's a period of slowdown where people have kind of lived or done the bulk of the things that they're going to do in their lifetime, and then there's that kind of period of slowdown, or at least that's my perception. I don't know. I've not reached those ages yet. Hopefully one day, but that's just my impression, is that there is a slowdown that occurs, and that's just based off of observation of my family, and yeah. And so life is really not that long for any of us, and I would argue that it's really not long enough to know all the ins and outs, right? And certainly people's lives are filled with so many things that most of us don't have time to sit and ponder the meaning of life, or really explore like our surroundings and how we feel about things. Most of us are too busy in the so-called rat race to really figure these things out. And so what is my point with that? My point with that is that even if somebody says that they know everything, they can't possibly know everything. Just take a moment to think about your own life. It doesn't matter how old you are. If you're older than me, I'm pushing 40. If you're younger than me, just think about the things that you've had to learn in your life. And so be honest with yourself. Do you feel like you know all there is to know? You probably know enough to get by. But if you're being honest with yourself, if you're being really honest, you don't know everything. All right, and so here's the other thing. So first, nobody can know everything, right? And so with that in mind, the other part comes into play. There are a lot of people, or there are people, I don't know if there's a lot, but there are people that would have you believe that they know what's best for everybody else, right? And they would have you, by hook or crook, think exactly the way that they think, and do exactly the way that they think you should do. Where I stand on that is that should not be, because no one person knows everything that there is to know. And so to me, that is an equalizer of all people. We're all learning as we go. There's no guidebook for life. There's not really a life coach that's worth listening to, because what do they know? They've not lived any longer than any other human. They're still trying to figure stuff out too. So I don't mean like don't listen to people. It's not what I'm saying. Definitely learn, but always keep in mind that that person may not know everything. Just like me sitting here talking to everybody who's listening, I don't know everything. I'm just telling you what I think is true based on what I've observed in my life. Sorry, I had to get some water. And so what have I observed in my life? Quite a bit, actually. I've seen the worst of people, and I've seen the best of people. I've seen the worst of myself, and I've seen the best of myself. And, I'll be quite honest with you. Some of that has made me pretty happy. Some of it has made me extremely depressed. There's times where I hate myself. There's times where I'm happy with myself. There's times where I really hate being in the world with other people. And there's times where I love it. It fluctuates. It changes. My opinion is dynamic. I'm dynamic. Everybody's dynamic. I believe that people can change over time. I believe that it's necessary. It's a necessity. In order to continue to live, you have to be able to adapt and overcome. And so within all that, the good things and the bad things, there's kind of core tenets that I've learned. Right? And I'm not going to go really deep into why. I think you can probably postulate why just based off of the things that I'm about to say. But one of the first things that's top of my mind every day of my life at this point, I've not always thought this way, but now I do. And I've felt this way for, I don't know, a good 2-3 years now. When, or not when, in life, and this is going to sound kind of sad. I don't mean it to be sad or goth kid, but I feel like it's the truth. In life, you're by yourself. You're 100% alone at all times. It doesn't matter if you're surrounded by friends or family. You're alone at all times. You come into this world alone. You leave this world alone. There's people that come into your life for a brief time, that care for you and that make life better and can make it a happier experience. There's people that come into your life, hopefully for a brief period, that can make it worse, that can derail it and push you off course or make you feel horrible. And then there's that area in between those two extremes where people will come in and out and do what they will, and that's going to make you feel some kind of way. The fact is, your last day on earth, nobody is going to be able to hold your hand and walk with you into whatever follows this life. The other fact is, no matter what kind of influences you have in life, the way that you handle situations and the way that you perceive information and act on the information that's given to you in life is 100% owned by you. And so the onus is on every person to really take stock of what's going on around them. And you can grab those two things that I asked you to keep in your pocket before. We're going to talk about those now. Because like I said, there's that path that everybody's supposed to take, right? If you go down that path, it doesn't work out for you, nobody's going to be there to come and pick you up and say, oh, shucks, sorry for you. Here's your consolation prize or whatever. That doesn't happen. If you fail on that path, you fail. You listened to what everybody else was doing and you decided to do that for yourself, and it became a failure. That can be turned into something else. It doesn't have to end there, right? I'm not trying to rain depressing thoughts on everybody. But if you take stock of that idea, I'm going to go on this path. I'm going to go to school. I'm going to graduate school. I'm going to go to college, graduate college. I'm going to get a job. I'm going to work there for 30 years or whatever. I'm going to become the CEO, right? Look down on everybody from my ivory tower. If that doesn't work out for you, or let's say at the end of all that, you wish you would have done things differently. You can't live your life in a way where you blame the other people that told you should do that because you did it. 100% of all the decisions that you made during the course of that time are on you. Pull this out of your pocket too. People will tell you to do this and that. People always want to give a lot of advice about things, just like I'm giving advice right now. If you choose to act on my advice or anybody else's, usually the way it goes, if that somehow turns out awful, the person that dispensed that advice is nowhere to be found. And all of the accountability is on you, right? I tell my son all the time, and this is played out on several occasions, people will push you to the edge. People will push you to do things, say things, be a certain way, act a certain way. When that all goes south, you look around and those people are nowhere. So how do I feel about things? I feel like people should take a minute to look around, to start forming some coherent thoughts for themselves, to think about how they really feel. Because there's kind of a tactical reaction that happens when something so visceral and appalling. When we witness these things, right in front of us, right, or on our TV screens, or there's a reaction that happens immediately, and there's that impetus to want to take that tactical response. And yes, I'm borrowing from Jocko Willink. There's a thought that we have to act immediately. That we have to be whatever emotion we're feeling at that time. So if it's anger, then we have to be angry, and we have to, espouse anger. And if anybody else is not angry, then they're not with us. They're not on the other. They're on the other side. Right? So there's that immediate reaction. And that's not always a bad thing. But what I'm saying is, my thought is, if you have the time to do it, step away from that emotional response. And it's hard to do. But if you'll step away from that emotion and start to look at things, how did this happen? Sometimes the answers are not apparent. They're not very clear, and they're not readily available. You have to really dig. But you have to think about how you feel and why. Why do you feel that way? Is the reason that something awful happened really what the news is saying? Is it really what everybody else is saying? It may be. But you need to form those thoughts for yourself. And definitely don't let somebody tell you that, hey, if you're not with the gang, then you're on the other side. Because like I said before, there are no sides. We all suffer the same fate. There will come a day for every human being on this planet. It will be their last. You'll eat your last meal, maybe sleep your last sleep, and then you won't be anymore. I'm in that boat with everybody else. Nobody, the gang, whoever, they're not going to hold your hand into whatever comes next after this. So don't let them rule over you during this life. Flip side, you can't let people walk all over you either. And so, I get that there's anger and frustration. It makes sense. People should be angry and frustrated. Those are the perfect emotions. But we can't get caught up in that. And we can't begin to take sides, right? So on to my next thought. One of the things that has helped me the most in my life is just my experience. Results may vary. As a kid, I grew up in not so great places. I'll just be honest with you. I spent a lot of time with my mom, who was not so great of a person. I didn't have much idea of what the world really was outside of my limited experience. And my limited experience was the world was a pretty hard place. When I was about 12 or 13, that experience changed when I went to live with my dad somewhere completely different. I started to see things were not horrible everywhere. In some ways, they were a lot better. There were some things that were a little bit worse. I didn't like them as well. When I was sorry, I'm just being very vague. I don't feel like there's really a need to go into like details. The point is my worldview changed as the scenery changed, and as I began to have conversations and learn about a new set of people. Right? So in one place, I was having not so good time, kind of a cruel existence. People didn't necessarily place a lot of importance on my life or my feelings or wants or needs as a child. I moved from that into a different situation where people actually cared. Nothing was perfect in either location, but my attitude definitely changed a little bit. My outlook on life changed a whole lot. Things were different. When I was 19, I joined the Navy, not really knowing much of the world outside of my limited experience. I had a lot of preconceived notions about what the world was about and what everything was like. And I thought that the world looked a lot like everything that I had ever seen in my life. I had what my dad has coined as, and now I've drawn a blank. Sorry. He's coined a phrase, but basically I've assumed, right, the fallacy of assumption. I don't think that's exactly his coined phrase, but you get my point. I had assumed that the world looked exactly like what I had been exposed to. Why? Because I had no frame of reference for anything outside of my limited experience. I was 19, and at that point in time, I had convinced myself that I knew everything, that there was nothing that I could learn. Typical, I think, of a lot of young people. No offense, young people. I was a young people once too. But yeah, so I joined the Navy. And so I went back to Chicago, where I spent a little bit of my childhood. And so that wasn't vastly different, but the people that I came in contact with during my first few years of the Navy, well, I won't say first few years, during the first year. Okay, so we're talking about basic training and corpsman A school, and that was all in Great Lakes. The people that I came in contact with were way different. It was a whole entire different culture, something that I had seen from the outside, but had never truly had the full experience from the inside. And so I had to learn a totally different worldview, a totally different way to live my life. And I had people telling me everything that I was going to do from the time I woke up until the time I went to sleep at night. And that includes what I was going to eat, how I was going to dress, how I was going to walk, all of that. And so that was different. And immediately my worldview changed. Once again, up until that time, the world kind of revolved around me. I began to realize that it did not, in fact, revolve around me. And really and truly, nobody really gave a crap if I woke up from one day to the next or didn't, life pretty much went on. I wasn't special. I was the same as everybody else. Please don't misconstrue what I'm getting at here. I'm not saying that people are not special. I'm not saying that everybody's the same as everybody else. Everybody's different, for sure. There's human aspects and there's experiences in our life that lead us to a place where we're all different. And it's all so... there's so many combinations of that probably no two people are exactly the same, right? Because any number of things can happen during the course of a person's life. But so it was at this time that I began to realize, hey, I'm not special. I am in a place where everybody's kind of equal importance, more or less. And then, of course, there's hierarchies to that depending on, rank. And I had people that kind of owned my existence too. And so I wasn't used to that. I mean, of course, I had parents and teachers and things, but never to this degree. And so that was a little bit different. And then all of a sudden I had, huge responsibility and a lot of pressure to perform on me, which I had never had in my life up until then. And so my worldview changed. Suddenly I started to be a little bit, I guess, more judgy of who I hung around or, what their goals kind of were. So like-minded individuals, right? Because you don't want to stick out. You don't want to be with somebody that's a troublemaker, because then you're associated with that and, you're lumped right along in with them. So whether guilty or not, you're by association guilty. And so that's when also the world started to become real too. And I kind of started to realize not to the degree that I am at now, but I started to realize the aloneness aspect of life at that point, because there was no one there. Mommy, daddy weren't there to help me brush my teeth at night or whatever, fold my clothes for me or make up my bed or get up in the morning or whatever. There was no kind words or anything like that. It was just, you're going to do this and that's the end of it. And so sorry to get long-winded on that, but the main thing, my worldview changed at that point. So as my time in the Navy progressed, I was fortunate enough to go to some different duty stations and be exposed to even more people and places. One of the biggest turning points in my life was when I was stationed with the Marine Corps in Okinawa. It was my first time ever being out of the United States. And so I don't know if this happens to everybody, but that being the first place that I ever saw outside of the United States, it totally rocked my perspective, my worldview. It was like nothing that I had ever seen before. I had never felt so far away from everything familiar to me. It was a game changer for me, thought-wise. The world started to open up for me a little bit more, and I started to realize, oh my God, everything that I've known up until now is not 100% accurate. I have fallacies, some of my thoughts are wrong. something that I'm not proud of, right? Uh, so I'm not bragging, or I don't want it to come across as like I'm making light of it, I'm making a joke. But to be honest with you, like I didn't really even understand the difference between Japan, Korea, China, right? That's how narrow my worldview was. It all was lumped into, just somewhere far away that I would probably never see, and didn't really care that much about, right? As a kid. Of course I care about it now. But like up until then, no real perspective. I didn't have anything to lean on, like no experience or whatever. So why would it be important to me? I was just a kid growing up in kind of a rural town in northwest Georgia. But, during my time there, things there became important to me. And still to this day, like I get really good feelings when I think about, the people that I met there, the experiences that I had, and actually the physical place. I love going back to Okinawa. It's beautiful. If you've never been, I suggest that you put that on your bucket list. There's so many places like that. I mean, I will probably never set foot on every place in every continent or whatever in the entire world. I'm sure there's people that have, but I learned so much from, just like a year. I think I was there for like a year and 9 months or something like that. Things completely changed for me as far as like how I thought about things. And to be fair, now I'm thinking about it, there's been plenty of times during my life where people have helped me enormously, and that was a place where people helped me enormously. I am not a super agreeable person, and I'm kind of stubborn, hard-headed, and there were people, quite frankly, there that helped me survive being at a Marine Corps duty station, because it's way different than being what you would call the blue side. There were people that definitely kept my nose clean and kept me out of trouble, and so there are those people that step in for sure, and I realize that. And so I think I mentioned that before. Like, it's not all doom and gloom. Yes, people are there, but my point earlier was that ultimately it's your job to make good decisions and to make the best decision. It may not be good, but to make the best decision you can with the information that you have available. Yeah, and so my worldview changed, and so I'm proud to say that now I know the difference for sure between Japanese, Chinese, Korean, Malaysian, Filipino, but I still don't fool myself and think that I know everything, because like I said before, I have not been everywhere in the world. I know there's plenty of places that I don't even think about on a day-to-day. I know that if I went there, I'd probably think they're cool, and I'd probably want to learn more about them, and I would probably end up being a better person because of it. So I also got to visit other places while I was in the Navy. I'm not going to go through like a whole list, but I got to see other countries and other cultures, and so those were eye-openers too. I got to do things that were very foreign to me, right? Like rappelling off of a couple 100-foot tower, relying on somebody to belay me and literally keep me from dying as I free fell, attached to a rope off of this tower. Shooting a 50 cal machine gun, riding in a Hummer, being on a Field X, things I had never done before, things I didn't even think I could do. And there's so many people that have done so much more. So I'm not bragging, I'm not trying to get cool points for laying out all the cool things that I did. But yeah, so just everything changed the way that I thought and felt. I was a different person. I had opportunity during my young life. I had many opportunities to make decisions. Some of the decisions I made were stupid. Actually, a lot. I would say like the majority were stupid. Fortunately, I made enough good ones that I'm able to be alive here today. I think that and like a whole lot of luck and other people that stepped in to help me. So I've had opportunities since my time in the military to go to school and learn more about the theory and the function, how things work with computers and even with society. I took all kinds of classes on real estate law and macro and microeconomics, sociology, marketing, learning how people behave, learning patterns of behavior, learning how to get to the psyche of people, like harness those core impulses to make them buy things. So there are patterns of behavior and there are ways to manipulate those. I definitely think that it makes sense. Some of the things that I learned about, and I can't even remember what the exact class was, but it was kind of like a sociology class where we studied, culture based on, well, the class was more than this, but I remember one of the things that we studied was like, proximity to Foot Locker or Popeyes or certain stores, right? If those stores landed in a neighborhood, like the surrounding neighborhood, like crime rate would go up and real estate values would diminish. It was very sad and also interesting how these areas could be influenced by simply placing, a certain kind of store there. There were a lot of other things, in that class too that I had never thought about. I became aware of. And so I fully think that everybody doesn't get a fair shake. And so when I say that everybody has to make their own decisions, I'm not implying that people have to pull themselves up by their bootstraps, right? I'm not implying that everybody has the same opportunities, because I don't believe that. I don't believe everybody has the same opportunities, because I live that. My life after I moved with my dad is completely different than when I live with my mom. I would have had zero opportunities with her. Right? So I know the difference. I've seen the difference in my own life. But I've also studied and seen case studies of how other people's lives are affected by the neighborhood that they live in, or unfortunately the color of their skin. So in no way do I want to diminish those things. I believe them to be true. Yeah. So I'm not saying that everybody has the same opportunity and you should just deal with it or whatever. Please don't misquote me on that. But all I can say is that if people don't try to make good decisions for themselves and think about things and start dialogues and try to get to know the perceived opposition, right? If you don't start conversations, you never know. It's just like me, even right now, I'm still learning things that I have no idea. I'm back in school. I'm studying things I've never studied before. I'll be honest with you. When I took on this program, I thought, that looks easy enough. This will be simple. Now that I'm into it, it's anything but. It's super difficult. There's a lot of intricacies, but I made the mistake of assuming and generalizing, right? I overestimated my capability. But I made the decision, and so now I have to keep on with it or not. I have to make little decisions as I go. What's going to be the right way, and then at the end of it, if it works out or if it doesn't, then that's 100% owned by me. And so I just use the information that's available to me and try to make the best decision that I possibly can. But anyway, this isn't all about me. My whole point is, what do I believe? I believe that, like Public Enemy says, you should not believe the hype. Right? Don't believe the hype. Don't believe what's given to you by the media or by even your quote unquote friends or family. Don't believe it. Investigate. Get to know what's really going on. And even if you see things that are going on, your eyes may fool you, because we're all conditioned to perceive things a different way based on all of the life experiences that we've had leading up to that one moment, right? So two people can stand in the same area, witness the same thing, and have a totally different set of emotions or a totally different idea of what's going on. Now, please don't be confused. I'm not trying to say that what's happened recently and the same thing has happened many times in the past. I'm not trying to say that this was all just a matter of perception. That's not what I'm not even trying to touch on that instance. I'm just saying, as a point, be extra careful always. Even if you see things, you may need to stop and think about what you're seeing, process that, investigate a little bit more, and formulate how you're going to deal with it, how you're going to proceed. going forward. I'm not saying that what has happened has not happened or anything like that. So please don't get confused. I don't think anybody was, but just in case, I definitely believe that horrible things have happened recently. I'm not happy about the state of the world and what's going on, and I definitely want to see a day where this doesn't happen anymore, or it's not a factor. But so basically, just don't get sucked in. Don't be somebody else's guinea pig. Don't rally with the troops just because it seems like everybody else is doing it. Make the decision for yourself. Try to have as many conversations with as many people as you can, and not go into those with preconceived notions of how they're going to turn out, or just be understanding that people are people. Nobody's been around long enough to know what's going on. Nobody really knows what's happened in history. Of course, that's probably all distorted. Nobody definitely knows what's happening in the future. Nobody can really say. And so we're all just kind of like living in the moment. And we just have to do the best with the information that we've been given. So I have seen some things that are kind of disturbing. A lot of pandering, a lot of virtue signaling. I'm not sure why a clothing company that sells shorts and other gear at crazy price points, right? I'm not sure why they need to come out and like make bold statements, right? That's a clothing company. I'm confused by a lot of things that are coming up on social media, and so that shouldn't be surprising because most things that come up on social media are pandering and virtue signaling. But I find it really disingenuous when like big companies suddenly are coming on and making bold statements about how these 12-step plans of how they're gonna change everything. And like one company said that they were going to only deal with non-racist companies. Like they were only going to do business to business with non-racist companies. And I'm thinking, that's great. That would be a great thing to do. How exactly do you verify that? Is that a real thing that you're saying, right? So understand, my problem is not with companies coming out to support in this time. It's just, are they really? Or is this them just trying to make people buy their stuff? I don't know. To me, if it's the latter, it's kind of gross. And of course, there's always people that you never hear from otherwise, that during these kind of these hot points have like all kinds of stuff on their profiles. They're pushing out content, trying to signal that they're this way or that. So my thing is, I'm never mad at that if that's truly how they feel. I can't be mad at that. I'm happy if a company wants to support everybody being able to live their life without being messed with. And if they're against terrible things, right? How am I going to be against that or mad at it? I'm not mad at that part of it, if that's genuinely what it is. I'm perturbed if it's just a publicity stunt, right? If it goes from 100% support now to an afterthought in a month or two. But anyways, that's just, that's my opinion. I'm still learning, so if it doesn't agree with yours, then I'm sorry. Maybe I will get more information and I'll be able to feel a different way about it. But for right now, I just feel like maybe there's a little bit of kind of cheap shot marketing going on, where companies are trying to align with a very prominent issue. Not because they care, but just because it's such a prominent issue that they're trying to get exposure for their company. One of the things that I saw from the company that sells high-end outdoor gear, or was it from them? No, it wasn't. I'm sorry, I misspoke. There's a publication that I actually subscribe to, and it's a running. It's a magazine about running. We'll put it that way. And there was a whole campaign that they did about how there is such a thing as outdoor privilege, and how certain ethnicities don't have the same exposure or ability to be outdoors, and so everyone else more or less should somehow feel guilty and compelled to do like all these different steps that they listed out. Maybe I have some more to learn on that. I really didn't see how it tied into what's going on, and how it pertained to the atrocities that had been committed, stuff like that. I don't understand it. Maybe I just don't know. Maybe I'm ignorant. So stuff like that is what I'm talking about, where it seems like they're maybe stretching it, trying to get out a message out to get exposure for their brand, not really helping, not really wanting, not sincerely trying to help. But anyway, who am I to judge? My suggestion for everybody is to just be nice. It's hard, but start talking to people that you can't stand or that you think you hate. You're probably going to find out that they're just people, and they have things going wrong in their life, and maybe they've got some things going good in their life. But everybody, I think, lives in kind of like a state of chaos where they're juggling all the different goings on and trying to do the best with what they've got. But again, ask yourself to, if you need to, ask yourself why you don't like people, or really think about it, instead of just maybe doing it because that's how you were raised, or that's what you've been led to believe was the path. like I said, I've seen all people. I mean, I've seen all types of people. I haven't seen all people. I've seen all types of people, good and bad, and they come in all hues. There's all different types. So to even think that a person can understand like every personality that exists, it's an error. And to assume things about another human being is an error. No matter what you're basing that assumption off of, if it's skin color, if it's the car they drive, the area they live in, the country they're from, I don't know. Anything that you're going to base that stuff off of, turn your nose up at somebody is, or maybe the opposite, run to somebody and, listen to everything they say and, kowtow to them because of who they are, where they're from, where they live, the car they drive, skin color, whatever. Yeah, so it goes both ways. Don't fall into that trap. Assuming is not a good thing to do. You need to qualify those assumptions with actual facts or the best information that you can get. So those are my beliefs on that. I hope the world will get better. I've been around for almost 40 years and I thought it had gotten a little better, but I don't know. I'm not so sure. Did anything really change? I don't know. It seems like no. It seems like things are leaning more towards no right now. I think there's a lot more distractions nowadays that keep our minds off of things, but I think there's just as much crazy stuff happening. So what to do? Well, you could give up. You could give up and just lay down and die. But what does that really solve? I don't think it really solves anything. It wastes what David Goggins calls your untapped human potential. So you may actually be the one that puts an end to all of this. It formulates a plan. Or you may be important in some other way. I don't think laying down and dying is the answer. And I don't think any subset of that is the answer. I think that we need to continue to live and reassess our situation. Think about what's important around us. Just for the record, I don't think anybody, no matter what race or creed or where you come from, I don't think anybody should ever be ashamed to go out on the trail and run. That's garbage to me. And anybody coming at me can miss me with that nonsense in any configuration or whatever of that. Get out of here with that. Yeah, I don't know why I took a stance on that, but anyway, that I just found it really weird. That whole thing was really weird. But so yeah. So don't lay down and give up. Don't accept this as the end. Don't accept the situation as it is. But I think that there's a time for being tactical, for having emotions, for showing those emotions, right? I don't think that right now if people weren't out protesting, I don't think that it would be listened to if people were quiet, right? So people being out protesting is probably a great thing right now because it's bringing a lot of attention to this issue, which I think it deserves. At the same time, while people are out protesting, we need to remain human beings, right? And while cops are out policing, they need to remain human beings. And both sides, right? It's not even sides. We're all human. But no matter what your station is in life, me sitting in my armchair right now doing this podcast, I need to keep myself adjusted, right? To where I'm always mindful that there's other human beings on this planet other than me. All of them have a multitude of experiences and things that have formed their thoughts, the way they act. I can't be 100% omniscient and aware of all of those things, and I need to be respectful of that, and everybody does, right? We need to start talking to each other and not hating each other because that's what, Grandpappy did, or that's what Mama did, or whatever. We may not trust each other as people, but somewhere that's going to have to start. There's still going to have to be a conversation, or else we're never going to trust each other. To be honest, I don't trust a lot of people. It's been my experience that you can't trust a majority of people. People, even the ones that are the most close to you, will turn their backs on you when you need something, or in those times when you're in trouble, or if you disagree. Even it's amazing how even family will turn their backs on you, or turn their backs on each other, I'll say. And so if that never gets reconciled, if there's never a discussion, then it just remains the way it is, and it never reaches any point of normalcy. There's never a conversation, nothing ever changes. So are we going to stay like this forever, or are we going to try to actually do something? And so we can push each other, we can yell and scream and be violent. We can break our each other's things. We can steal. But does that really help? I don't know. I don't think so. It definitely sends a message. I don't know what the message is, though. We'll see. But I think that I'm oversimplifying things for sure. Who's going to start this discussion? How's that going to go? How long is it going to take? Well, I guess it's going to take a long time, because I think it took a long time for all of this to come to be. And so it's kind of like if you gain a bunch of weight, right? There's really not a magic one that will get you back to being skinny again overnight. You can maybe get liposuction or something like that, but that doesn't get you back to where you were necessarily. It'll get you back in some areas, and then also that's not a permanent solution, so it can always go back to what you don't want. If you address the actual issue and you continue to have a pattern of behaviors that supports the good outcome, then that can be long lasting, right? I botched that example, but hopefully you get what I mean. We've got to start talking to each other and not in sound bites and not in preconceived notions and assumptions and our condition with our conditioned thoughts in trepidation and distrust of each other. We're all gonna have to open up, be open and honest, because I think a lot of people are hurting. A lot of people silently hurt. There's things that happened to me when I was a kid that still hurt me to this day. I don't forget them. So imagine if somebody lives their entire life with people having preconceived notions and thoughts about them based on, an attribute that they have. Imagine what that does to a person. Imagine how that feels to live an entire life that way. Probably pretty awful. Yeah. So, I guess the key thing, if you take anything away from this, is just, the points that I've stressed the most. You can't trust anybody to give you the real deal. You have to formulate that for yourself. Don't join groups. Don't get into group thought. Think for yourself. No, everything may not turn out okay, but you can't give up. You have to keep going. Why? Because if you don't, it doesn't help anybody. It doesn't help the next generation. It doesn't do anything for you personally. What you see, if you look around you right now, wherever you're at, look around you. That is not going to be where you're at probably a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now. That's how you have to think. I'm not going to be here forever. Things are going to change. I'm going to change. People are going to change, hopefully. But that's how you got to look at the world. You have to be very objective. Don't be subjective. Don't let your past dictate your future either. There is a certain amount of that has to be done, right? Like if you're going to cross a busy street, that cars are dangerous, right? You don't want to cross the street when there's a car barreling toward you. So, yeah, I get it. Like there's situations that may put you in danger that you have to use that kind of thinking. But like when you're dealing with other people, you can't always think like that. You have to keep yourself safe, but at the same time, don't let something that's not substantiated, right, make you weary of someone for no reason. But anyways, I'm probably not making sense at this point, but I think maybe everybody gets it. Be yourself. Be your own person. Don't fall into groupthink, because guarantee that group will not be there for you when it hits the fan. It'll seem like that all the way up until the end, until they turn their backs on you and you're all by yourself in whatever torment you've landed in. Then those people will just become bystanders. So make your own way. Think your own thoughts. But I think I've said this too many times already. So on to, I guess the more bearable part of this podcast, hopefully. Sorry, I just had to kind of say all that just to get it out. I'll be honest with you. The last couple of months have not been great. I mean, just life in general has been quite a ride. And there's times at work where I'm on the verge of, breaking into tears. Just, thinking about what is going on, and just life in general. Life is tough enough, and then now we've got all this other stuff going on with disease and tragedies that are happening. It does. It almost makes you want to just lay down and do nothing for forever. But people can't live that way. It's not gonna. Nothing will change. Nothing will get better. But yeah, so it's been rough, and it's been rough for everybody. I forgot what my point and even mentioning that was. It's been rough. What can I say? So to get away from that, of course, I've been doing my running, and it helps a lot. I definitely notice if I don't go, I can get my mind off of things if I'm out, on Beach Road or somewhere for a little bit. I'll be honest, I didn't really know how to approach this issue, or if I even should. I felt like I should not just do a podcast where I don't talk about it at all. Because, that would be like, it's not even happening, and I definitely don't want to do that. I believe that this is happening. I believe that it's systemic. I believe that it's wrong. At the same time, I believe that I'm a numbskull, and I don't have a lot of great advice. And I know me. I know, you've bore witness to the last however many minutes of me talking. I do not articulate things well, and I stumble over myself. And so my fear was, even though I want to do a good thing and say good things, I'm going to mess up and, unduly upset people. And that's not what I want to do. And so hopefully, if you are angry, please don't take anything that I've said as being dismissive. I didn't really know how to approach this. I've tried several times to record this podcast and just ended up like in a really depressing place, and I just really depressed me so much that I just turned off the recording, left it alone. But I felt like I needed to talk about it. It's not a virtue signaling thing. It's not, I'm not pandering to anyone. If you know me, there's maybe 5 people in the whole world that really actually truly know me. But if you know me at all, you know that this is not pandering. It's not virtue signaling. The neighborhood that I lived in as a kid was predominantly not white. the neighborhood that we moved from in Decatur when we moved to Hawaii was, I honest, I'll be honest with you. I think that besides me and my wife and my son, I think we were the only, I guess, white slash Asian people in probably, I don't know, I'm just guessing, I would say 10, 15 square miles. So no, I don't think I should get an award for that. I don't think that makes me like Gandhi. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just, I live what I'm saying. I don't have any reservations about people because of the color of their skin or really anything else. So I hope that if he's listening, he won't be offended by this. But my best friend, well, yeah, he's my best friend on this whole island. He's got gauges. I think he's got dreadlocks, tattoos all over his body. He is what I would coin as a very free thinker. Not at all. He doesn't look like me. He's much smarter than me. He's way more educated, much more articulate. But so, when I see people, if they're interesting, they're interesting, right? It doesn't matter to me. It never has. There's been so many times in my life where a lot of people have stepped in to help me or have gotten me through a tough patch. And I can remember a lot of times when those people happened to be people of color. When I was a kid, our next door neighbor, Mr. Wilson, he gave me a pair of shoes just out of the goodness of his heart. He took them right off his feet and gave them to me because whatever I was wearing, I guess, wasn't worn out or whatever. And so he felt so bad, he took his shoes off and gave them to me, like a brand new pair of shoes. Friends in the military, I would have made it through, without knowing these people, but certainly they made it a lot better. I can remember my friend Christopher Dixon, when I was in field medical service school. We used to hang out and walk out on the what do you call it, the shore break down in Oceanside. And we were young. We would make up these elaborate stories about our alter egos. And so the thing with being in the military, and especially if you're anywhere on a Marine Corps base, is that there is a lot of authority that is above you, and it's a very high stress thing for most young men and women to be in that environment 24/7. And so to get past that, me and Chris, we would make up stories about our alter egos, and it was just our alter egos were us, our names spelled backwards. And so his was in the military, we all went by our last name, so his was Noxid, and we would make up all kinds of bizarre scenarios where his alter ego Noxid would cause some kind of anarchy in the normal routine. But so I still remember, I don't remember the exact conversations, but I remember having those times with him, and just cutting up and being silly, like being just goofy. And I, honestly, like there weren't that many cool people in field medical service school. Actually, one guy got me in trouble because we had just come back from the field. And for anybody that doesn't know, the field is like anytime you go out into a training area and you're sleeping in tents and you're training like out in Camp Pendleton. This was like in the desert training area. So we had just come back from the field. I think we were out there for like a couple, like maybe a week or two. I can't remember, but we had come back, and so one of the things that we had to do was every piece of our gear had to be clean, right? And this happens every time you come back from the field, and actually every day that you're in the military, all of your stuff is supposed to be 100% immaculate. And so we were supposed to come back from the field and polish our boots and have them looking like brand spanking new, and they have to be left at the end of the bed. And so the guy in the top bunk leaves his on one side, the guy in the bottom bunk leaves his on the other side. And so what happened with this guy was that he didn't clean his boots. This was not Christopher, by the way. This was another guy. He took my boots and swapped them with his boots, and so you can't even fathom the rain of hellfire that came down upon both of us. At first, it was just me. So I got taken out of class. I'm supposed to be learning how to save people's lives in combat. I get taken out of class by the gunnery sergeant, who begins to berate me, and also at the same time is making me do jumping jacks whilst he berates me for the terrible condition of my boots. And so I'm doing jumping jacks faster, and also trying to catch my breath and explain to him what I think has happened, because I had no idea. He tells me, all right, you've got, what did he say? You got however many minutes, I don't know, like 5 minutes or something. You got 5 minutes, right, to go back to the bunk, bring me your boots and bring me his boots, right? So it would take 15 minutes to drive there and back. And so the gunnery sergeant gave me 5 minutes. So I was doomed either way. In the end, the other guy copped to it after the gunnery sergeant made him also do jumping jacks like incessantly. And I think probably Gunny was pretty smart. He probably knew what was going on the whole time. But those were the kind of people that were in this training with me. And so to have somebody there like Chris, where I could just talk to him and act goofy, and somebody that would actually be there. Most people were out, drinking and after hours or whatever. I didn't do that much, at least not in my young life. So yeah, people like Chris later on, going on Field X in Korea, Smitty, things as simple as just, liking hip hop, like Tribe Called Quest, or Del the Funky Homo Sapien, or something like that. Who would have thought that some guy from, a guy from New York and then a guy from Georgia, right, that just happened to like the same music would, be able to formulate a friendship like that. And having somebody there also to talk to was awesome, because again, like I said before, I am not the most agreeable person, kind of stubborn and hard-headed. And so there were a lot of people that I rubbed the wrong way during my time in the military, because I've never been one, even in the military, to really accept a heavy-handed approach to things. And so you can imagine what a fish out of water I was for 5 years. It's actually pretty amazing that I survived those those 5 years, because I'm pretty sure there were people that wanted to kill me. Not seriously, but so that, and then like neighbors in our last neighborhood, it was nice to have those neighbors to talk to. And so there was some trepidation in moving into a neighborhood that was predominantly all people of color, and then it was just me and my wife, and I don't think there were any other white people around. And so, but we learned that was another transformative experience, right? Was living in that area and seeing that, the day to day. What is it like? It's like anywhere else. People are people. We have the same basic needs. People will be friendly if you're friendly to them. People will be hateful if you're hateful to them. I mean, that's generally the way that it works. Georgia State, that's a 10%, what is it, 10% minority or more, I think, way more than that at Georgia State. Did I say Georgia Tech? I'm not smart enough to go to Georgia Tech. Georgia State. Not that people at Georgia State aren't smart. I'm just saying, like, I would never get into Georgia Tech. I'm definitely at Georgia State. Going there, though, I think I've really put my foot in my mouth a couple of times during this podcast. So if I said anything stupid, just know that I'm stupid, and disregard. I didn't mean it that way, so just take it the good way. But yeah, like going to that school, meeting the people there, it was an interesting experience. It was cool to see, like, because people at Georgia State, it was such cultures were on display, and so everybody was kind of like, it's kind of like a fashion show. Like, anybody from Atlanta will tell you, like, if you want to see what's in vogue, you go to Georgia State, right? That's where all the smartly dressed, like, the latest trends, like, you go there. So that was cool, and that, definitely a good experience, another learning experience. All different people of all different ilks and creeds and colors and all that. And so I forgot. I thought I was going to start talking about running, but apparently I didn't. Yeah. So, I mean, so many positive influences, or so many positive thoughts, memories, people in my life who have been people of color, despite all of the preconceived notions that the world would have you believe, right? When I actually saw these people for what they actually are, there's nothing bad. There's nothing sinister. We got along. It was a matter of talking and getting to know one another, right? Once that hurdle was overcome, there's people are people. But yeah, so I mean, that's all I will say on that. I'm going to stop while I'm somewhat ahead. Running. Like I say, I've been doing a fair amount. It's been keeping me somewhat sane. Have I been thinking about people that I've known, people of color? Yeah, for sure. I've been thinking about all of that, and kind it's been top of mind recently for sure. uh I really don't, I don't want to talk about the details of everything because it's tough to talk about, but I do think about the particular situation that happened in Georgia, and what happened to that kid. uh and that's tough. That's really tough to think about. And yeah. Whew. But trying to temper that also with all of the good thoughts and the hopes that you know this thing will will get worked out, that won't be the future. I don't want that to be my son's future. I don't want him to grow up in a world like that. It's not good. And so pressing on, I've been trying to maintain, and just do what I need to do to keep myself like uh, mentally right and able to like process information and make the right decisions. And so I've been staying at it. And I think anybody out there that's going through some stuff, it's understandable for sure. Don't give up your routine. It's not petty, it's not superficial. Yes, fight the good fight, but also remember to take care of yourself and you know keep your head right. Keep doing what you need to do, to keep yourself fully in the game. uh, all right, so it's hard for me to segue from talking about everything that I've been talking about into just simply talking about running. But I guess to make the segue, all right, I'm gonna have to depart from everything I was just talking about. I'm gonna have to depart from to kind of make it more into this running portion. Okay. So to make that segue, I'm gonna say, talking about getting to know people. There have been a lot of interesting people on Beach Road that I need to know more about. One of the most prominent people that I've seen on Beach Road in the last couple of weeks was an elderly lady that was carrying a kiddie pool down Beach Road, and I saw her a couple times. I was warned about her by a passing vehicle. I guess when they saw her, she was in the kiddie pool in the middle of the road. Anybody that's been on Beach Road or has heard me talk about it knows that vehicles do not go slow down that road, and it's a hilly road, so you don't always see everything that's directly in front of you. So being in the middle of the road is not a good place to be. So I guess this lady was in the middle of the road in the kiddie pool. When I saw her, she was carrying the kiddie pool once, and then the second time I saw her, I believe she was sleeping in the kiddie pool, which is actually kind of smart because there's ants and centipedes and all kinds of critters on the ground here. But I don't know the whole story behind her. That was interesting. I would like to know more about what was going on there. My theory is that she had gotten the kiddie pool maybe for like a grandchild, or maybe for a pet, or maybe even for herself, and she was just carrying it from one place to another because she didn't have a car or she wasn't able to drive or something. I don't know. You just never know. I mean, I think that pretty much sums up all of the things that I've been talking about. There's no way to really know for sure what was going on with that lady unless I talked to her. And then possibly even then, she may not have even known what was going on. Um, so, so yeah, so that was one. And then this was not a person, but a kind of concerning thing that happened. I was running one day in the evening time, and came across what looked like, I don't know what kind of thing this was, but it looked like a propane tank, and it was completely on fire, and it was like popping like bursts of flames out of the side. And so to me, it looked like a propane tank that was like licking flame, like maybe it still had some propane in it. Why anybody would set this on fire and put it on the side of the road down Beach Road, I don't know. It's a problem in that area. I can say, like, people dump all kinds of things on the side of the road, and it's really sad because it is a beautiful area. It's a dense tropical rainforest, and it's beautiful for what it is, but people throw all kinds of trash, like entire living rooms of furniture, I think I've said it before, are out there, TVs and everything. So that day they had thrown this tank out there. I went by to look at it in runs after that, and I wasn't able to tell what it was. It kind of looked like the inside, like the barrel part of a washing machine, but I don't know how that would be on fire, you know what I mean? So I don't know. But so the point is, this thing was on fire, and I thought it was a propane tank, and I also thought that it might explode at any moment. So the first thing I did was ran towards the oncoming vehicle, the one that I saw. Oh, how do I word that? As soon as I saw a vehicle, I ran right towards it, and I was waving it down. And of course, like, this is COVID time, and also I carry a knife in the side of my shorts when I'm out running down there, just for dogs and pigs, and then maybe a crazy person. Hopefully not a person, but I'm waving at this lady, and she kind of like waves back, but then just keeps on going. I don't blame her. I wouldn't have stopped either, but I wanted to flag her down to see if she would call the fire department to come hose this thing down. In hindsight, kind of stupid, because I don't think that the fire department would have come out into the middle of Beach Road to put this thing out. I don't know, maybe they would, but yeah, anyways. So that lady probably thought that I was pretty quote unquote interesting, but not interesting enough to stop. She just kept right on going. She waved at me and kept on going. So that was kind of a little insight that will be helpful for me, because now I know if anything actually is going really wrong, I'm not going to be able to stop a vehicle for help. They're probably just going to keep going. So food for thought, safety wise, for me at least. I've seen a lot more, well, I say a lot more, I've seen more runners out on Beach Road, which is kind of cool. It's good to see, other people out there doing the same thing. Of course, there's always people that are out there doing other things, like, biking or walking or hiking, I guess. But it's good to see other runners out there too. Nothing really too crazy. Of course, like, cars are going by faster than they should, and then, cars do go slow sometimes when they see me, and so big shout out to all the slow cars out on Beach Road. I'm thinking about starting a page on the Running Thought site that's just dedicated to, like, the rules of the road, but like the rules of Beach Road. And so I've got some, that I've already thought up, like Just because beach roads open 24/7 doesn't mean you should be on beach road 24/7 or something like that, you know. But just have like an ongoing list. Like every time I think of something, just put like an extra layer and then just have it like scroll up on that page, like the rules of beach road, because it is such an interesting place. It's like an episode of Reno 911 kind of. Oh yeah, so a couple of things. The first one not so climactic, but was running like I think the evening before last, and there was a big boar on the side of the road, and there was also a Dodge Ram that was coming down the road, and so the boar was trying to escape from the Dodge Ram, but then also it saw me coming in the opposite direction of the Dodge Ram, and so there was some thinking going on with the boar, and this is a pretty big one, as to like whether it's going to run away from the Dodge and like towards me, or whether it was going to ditch and go off into the jungle. And so for a minute there it was kind of tense because this animal was like zigzagging, and I was just kind of waiting for it to charge me, but it did not, thankfully. So that was kind of exciting. And then let's see, there was something else that was even more exciting than that. Oh yes. So I've talked about it before. I think there's one particular, I guess, parcel of land where I always hear dogs barking, but it seems like they're way far off in the distance, but there's always a commotion, like, and it sounds like feral dogs, like in a pack. Well, recently I've had one run-in where I didn't even hear them. I turned around and there's like 4 or 5 of these little dogs, like nothing too ominous or foreboding, but just these little dogs in a pack, and they all look rough. They're, you know, like dirty. I don't know if they even have collars, but they're all standing behind me, and then like as I turned around they gave chase and like started barking. So that was kind of crazy. I wasn't like scared of that, obviously, but it was kind of crazy. And then another, like a couple days after, I was going past this house, and there was only one dog that came out, and looking at him, like he was obviously he hated my guts for what reason, I don't know, but he was very, you know, sketched out by me, but his eyes were kind of blued over, you know, like when dogs get older and maybe cataracts or whatever have formed in their eyes. So I think he couldn't see that good, but he could see like motion. So whenever I moved, he would get like antsy and start barking and growling at me, and kind of like jumping, getting a little jumpy. So I saw that guy, and then on the way back, like I guess he was waiting on me because he had his buddies, and so as I passed that house, they all gave chase, and so I was having to like really run away from them. They were hunting me down, all these dogs, and so I had given them a name, but now I can't remember what their gang name is. If I think of it, I'll mention it in another episode. Somebody decided to be edgy and painted a pentagram on the road, and then also I noticed they painted pentagrams on trees. So I don't really know like the difference between pentagram and a pentacle. I think I know that there is a difference. I know like one is for Wiccan stuff, and then the other is like a satanic thing, I guess. But somebody decided to be edgy and paint those things down there. So it's really weird because it's kind of like a pristine sort of rainforest setting, and then it is Hawaii, so yes, there's definitely strange things here, but that is not the top of the list of things you think of like that you're gonna see out in Hawaii, especially not in the middle of even Beach Road. I wouldn't think you'd see stuff down there, but I don't know. Hopefully that will get rubbed off or something soon. It's kind of weird. There's one particular van that's parked down in that area, and I don't know if it's the van, but there's also like that deathly smell, like maybe a pig died or something like in that general area. And so that was kind of weird too. Like a couple of days I went by, and this van had like this nasty, or maybe it wasn't the van, just that area had like this gross, smell of death. And or it could have been like old trash that somebody threw on the side of the road. I don't know, but yeah. So that was kind of sketch. I don't want to be offensive to like whoever drives that van, and say it was the van, but maybe coincidence. I don't know. It did make me think, but I mean, what do you really do with that thought? Like, call the cops? They're not gonna come investigate because there's a smell. Anyways, but it's been nice weather, and that's been helpful. But other than that, nothing really too crazy. I've been up to power lines, kind of Pu'o Trail. That's kind of where I go now instead of the waterfalls. I haven't been back since I ran into the new signs that they posted. I'm still not sure. The DLNR guy never called me back, so I haven't really pressed it further. I like going up to power lines because there's not that many people there. Pu'uo'o Trail is a little more crowded, it seems like. So I have not been going on that. I do like that trail, and it actually meets up with power lines. But I haven't been on that. I tried Kalmana Trail recently, but I didn't think that was a great one for running. It's pretty short, first of all, and then it's really so it's like a lava flow, but there's a lot of like I guess step downs and step ups, and like a lot of places that you could trip or get your foot stuck in a hole or something like that. So plus the day I went, it was raining, so it was slick. I actually left the trail and then just ran up the highway, which was kind of dangerous, back up to my truck. I guess it wasn't that dangerous. There was plenty of median, but I would have rather been on the trail, like real far away from cars. But anyways, and then other than that, I think I talked the last episode maybe about going up to my work friend Eric's place and then running out there, and I think I maybe even posted maps, and so I'll have to post some more stuff up on the website. It's just been crazy, and with school too, I've not had a lot of time to really sit down and do anything else but work on school projects, and then doing my daily runs, and I'm usually pretty tired at the end of the day. But yeah, so I feel like I've been talking for a long time. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna end this for now, because speaking of school and other stuff, I've got school and other stuff to do right now. But yeah, so I'll just leave you by saying that, again, look around. What you see now is not forever. Things are going to change one way or the other. My hope 100% for everybody is that things will get better and things won't be the same as they are right now. If you're out there and you're hurting, and even if you're out there and you're not hurting, I don't know how you could be a human and not be hurting right now, but either way, if you're out there and you're feeling like nobody cares, I care on some level. I care about you. I want you to do good. I love you as a human being, human to human, brother and sister. Be kind to each other and try to get to know the other person. Try not to go into things with that argumentative, is that a word? With that spirit of being argumentative. Try to go into things trying to understand. Accept things that you cannot control, right? Accept that you can't. Don't accept things you can't control. Accept that you can't control everything. Don't try to control other people's thoughts. And you don't have to convince everybody. Like, everybody doesn't have to capitulate and do the same as everybody else. But we can all have different thoughts and different opinions and still, at the core, love each other and respect each other and treat each other and give each other basic human rights. And I can safely say that everybody deserves that much. But yeah, so love each other, be kind. This is not gonna last forever, meaning that the discussion should be had and we should find a solution so that this never happens going forward. And it's not something that we have to ever worry about or our kids have to worry about. Yeah. And so maybe I'm being a dreamer, but that's my hope. And time will tell. Keep taking care of yourself. Keep running. Keep doing whatever you do. I will try to do another episode soon. Thank you, everybody that is listening. Speaking of the Navy, actually, my friend Steve, who I've talked about before on the podcast in our little adventures, smuggling our bikes on the Amtrak train back in Corps School. He actually told me the other day that he had started listening to episode 1 and he said he liked it. I don't know if he really liked it, but fingers crossed. Hopefully he did, and hopefully he'll continue on listening. But yeah, so that's all. Like, and if I made you feel upset or anything like that, just know that first of all, I'm a dummy, and it was not meant to do that. Second of all, I'm still learning just like everybody else, and there's things that I've yet to discover. So, please look at it in that light and forgive me for any shortcomings that I've had over the past however many minutes this has been. But yeah, just keep on keeping on, and we'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.